Beloved soul, I need you to just stop, right now, and take one deep, intentional breath. That peculiar, almost unsettling sensation, that strange tightening or pressure you felt in the center of your chest this morning. It was not simple fatigue. It was, in fact, the inaugural seismic ripple of the Billionaire shift, a massive, life-altering realignment that the heavens themselves initiated and activated specifically for your life. A specific, often subtle action you took today, perhaps small, silent, and nearly forgettable, sent an immediate, powerful shock wave reverberating through the unseen, spiritual realms. You are not yet consciously aware of the monumental impact it has already had, but you felt the immediate spiritual effect, an unusual atmospheric pull, a persistent whisper echoing just behind your surface thoughts, a tangible weight of destiny that subtly shadowed your steps throughout the entire day. Listen closely to the sound of my voice now. You did not stumble upon this message by chance. This is not a casual divine update. You were specifically drawn here, pulled with spiritual gravity, and strategically aligned in this very moment. This is essential because the fundamental financial elevation, the comprehensive destiny alignment, and the absolute awakening of your true wealth mindset commences tonight. Not relegated to tomorrow and certainly not postponed until someday, but right now. Heaven has thrown open a portal, a window of radical opportunity, and your name, beloved, is inscribed in blazing gold across its threshold. Chosen one, you endured years, assuming falsely that your progress was stalled, that you were eternally delayed. In truth, you were never stuck. You were undergoing meticulous, divine positioning, being calibrated and strengthened precisely for this moment of explosive activation. That small, crucial pivot you made today, whether it was a fiercely whispered prayer, a single bold decision against all logic, or the defining moment you firmly refused to retreat back into destructive old patterns, that action instantly transmuted into a powerful, irrevocable divine command. And let me assure you, that command has already been stamped and permanently recorded in the heavenly ledger of eternal consequence. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43 verse 19. Do you perceive the subtle acoustic shift? That is the unmistakable sound of a completely new season rushing in. A season characterized by radical abundance, monumental breakthroughs, and the kind of aggressive divine acceleration that God specifically reserves only for those who faithfully endured the silent, hidden battles that no one else witnessed or knew the depth of. And you, yes, you are the uniquely chosen vessel designated to receive this profound prophetic word first. But wait, before I fully unveil the magnitude of what was truly triggered in the spiritual realm today because of your decisive action, I require one essential commitment from you. Do not navigate away from this message. The powerful activation prayer waiting at the conclusion is the key designed to unlock and flood the flow of divine prosperity already pre-written into the scroll of your life. If you are truly ready to claim this new reality, take a deep, steadying breath and stay locked in with me. I reiterate, everything, your whole new chapter, begins tonight. Why tonight? Because the action you took that caused movement in the unseen dimension was not minor. It was not subtle. It was certainly not an accident of fate. Chosen one, the very expanse of heaven physically leaned toward the earth the exact nanosecond you executed that one pivotal decision. Yes, that specific choice that felt utterly insignificant or mundane to your human consciousness was, in fact, thunderous and world-shaking in the spirit realm. While your primary focus was simply surviving and moving through the routines of your day, the administrative courts of heaven were engaged in massive restructuring. They were actively rearranging rigid timelines, aggressively redirecting delayed provision streams, and fundamentally shifting the underlying architecture of your long-term financial stability. A specific seal was broken open today, something ancient, something that has been long reserved for this precise moment. Your awakened spirit registered this profound change instantaneously, long before your rational mind could process or articulate it. That's why you wondered about the inexplicable warmth flooding your chest. Why your natural thoughts felt suddenly sharper and intensely focused. Why you caught yourself repeatedly dreaming on a scale far grander than you previously permitted yourself. That was not mere imagination or wishful thinking. That was divine visitation. Listen to this essential truth. There are critical moments in the destiny arc of a chosen one where the divine realm ceases waiting for human permission or readiness. In these moments, heaven simply moves. It drastically intervenes. It rapidly accelerates everything. Today, beloved, was one of those non-negotiable days. An action you took, perhaps a small but mighty act of obedience, a healthy boundary you finally had the courage to enforce, or a desperate, quiet prayer whispered quickly between tasks. That act became the specific trigger for a destiny alignment that specialized angels have been stationed and waiting to release over your life for years. This resonance must sound familiar to your soul. You absolutely felt that undeniable spiritual shift, didn't you? But here is the critical part you cannot yet see with your natural eyes. The decision you executed today shattered the final, ancient chain tethering you to a silent, insidious cycle that has been relentlessly draining your allocated abundance. This cycle was partially inherited, partly learned through painful experience, and largely tolerated because you failed to recognize its profoundly spiritual nature. These are the burdens like invisible generational ceilings, crippling emotional blockages, and deep patterns of perpetual lack that you mistook for merely being realistic. Heaven utilizes a single, harsh term for these blockages: thieves. And today, you decisively slammed shut the primary door those thieves had exploited for far too long. Let me share a profound, hidden truth with you now. No one, absolutely no one, stumbles blindly into a billionaire shift because of random luck or chance. Heaven meticulously engineers this level of transformation through a highly strategic combination of divine alignment, radical surrender, perfect timing, and personal courage. And when the chosen one finally moves their physical self into complete spiritual agreement, the entire atmosphere responds with explosive instantaneousness. That precise, powerful response is exactly what manifested for you today. You weren't trying to initiate a movement or change the world. You were just navigating your life. But God issued a quiet whisper into your spirit, and you obediently responded. Because of that simple act of obedience, the shift commenced. Yet, here is the layer of truth you are unaware of. Your obedience did not merely alter your personal trajectory. It violently broke the financial and spiritual ceiling for every single generation destined to follow you. An entire bloodline, past, present, and future, has been patiently awaiting the exact moment you decided to choose differently. And tonight, that earth-shattering moment is echoing and resonating powerfully through realms you are still unable to perceive. Before we plunge deeper into this revelation, beloved, pause and allow yourself one quick second of internal stillness. If this message is physically stirring or vibrating something deep within your spirit, it is because heaven is actively confirming to you that you are not, under any circumstances, imagining this reality. And if you desire to remain connected to every subsequent revelation, every piece of strategic insight that supports your accelerated rise, seal your connection now. Not for the sake of platform metrics, but so that heaven maintains a direct, designated place to consistently speak vital direction to you in life-altering moments such as this one. This profound journey of elevation was never intended to be walked in isolation. Now, regulate your breathing, because I must ensure you absorb this crucial next part without any internal or external distraction. The action you took today, regardless of its seeming simplicity, successfully tore up the silent, insidious contract you had inadvertently held with limitation. And when that contract was shredded, limitation screamed. Darkness recoiled violently from your atmosphere. The suffocating old pattern attempted one desperate, final maneuver to cling onto your soul. This explains precisely why your entire day felt fundamentally strange, emotionally volatile, heavy and draining in certain moments, yet strangely light and hopeful in others. You were literally suspended in the gravitational pull between the diminished version of who you were and the empowered reality of who you are rapidly becoming. But make no mistake, the new, elevated you won the conflict. And in that instant, the very instant you won the internal battle, the specialized angels assigned to orchestrate your breakthrough season received immediate, irreversible clearance to release torrents of financial and creative resources that had been strategically held up for months, sometimes even years. Opportunities that were previously beyond your reach are now actively shifting their trajectory directly into your path. People who once casually dismissed your potential will suddenly feel an inexplicable, spiritual compulsion to honor your rising. Valuable ideas you had forgotten or abandoned will resurface with undeniable force and perfect timing. Doors that were once bolted shut will instantly recognize the authority attached to your name. But listen, lean in closely now, because this specific insight is sacred doctrine. Heaven operates under a strict principle. It will not release generational, sustained wealth until it has meticulously prepared and shaped the vessel designed to carry it. And today, your actions provided irrefutable proof that you are swiftly becoming the trustworthy vessel God can rely upon to steward true abundance. That intense pressure you have been feeling lately? It was never punishment, it was rigorous preparation. The overwhelming financial tension you experienced? It wasn't evidence of failure, it was intensive elevation training. The profound loneliness that seemed to follow you? It was not divine abandonment, it was strategic repositioning. God has been ruthlessly pruning away every minor distraction, systematically stripping away every false alliance and connection, and intentionally tightening the ground beneath your feet. This radical shaping is essential because you are being conditioned and fortified to carry monumental abundance without suffering a catastrophic spiritual collapse under its weight. You have been navigating a prolonged season of intense spiritual weightlifting, entirely unaware of the process. You mistakenly believed you were merely surviving. In reality, you were strategically strengthening. Let me ask you a penetrating question. Have you observed recently how certain familiar people suddenly faded away? How formerly reliable conversations ended abruptly? Or how invitations you once received regularly abruptly ceased? You likely blamed yourself initially, processing it as rejection, but your spirit was whispering a deeper truth. You were undergoing a critical process of being uncluttered, spiritually unburdened, and permanently unhooked. You simply cannot ascend into a true billionaire shift while attempting to carry individuals whose own spirits are terrified of elevation. Their restricted, small spirits actively resist the destiny and abundance your spirit is called to embrace. Heaven was forced to surgically create distance and separation, even though you painfully struggled to understand the necessity at the time. Chosen one. Today, in the celestial courts, heaven issued the decisive decree. They are ready. Release the next level of influence and provision. But here is the critical warning that few are truly prepared for. When a chosen individual steps across the threshold into tangible divine wealth, ancient, lingering spiritual battles inevitably intensify aggressively before they dissolve entirely. That is the fundamental reason today felt unstable or shaky. That's why your emotions dangerously fluctuated. That's why your spirit persistently attempted to warn you. Pay urgent attention. Something truly ancient and adversarial sensed it was permanently losing its authoritative grip on your life. And it lost. But we are not finished here. Not even close to the full truth. Because the chain that snapped today is merely the initial action, and the comprehensive, full revelation that is coming next, beloved, will fundamentally change everything about your future reality. Before we proceed further, right in this sacred space, seal your covenant of agreement by declaring this aloud and typing it. I step into the flow. This action is far more than simple digital engagement. It is vocal alignment. It is your physical voice echoing the profound declaration heaven has already decreed over your identity. Now, lean in physically, drawing this message closer, because the next segment will reveal the precise reason heaven aggressively accelerated your pre-planned timeline today, and exactly what resources are poised to manifest in your life with a speed that defies human expectation. Chosen one. What truly unfolded in the unseen dimension of your life today was not a tiny, passive ripple. It was a spiritual earthquake, a forceful rearranging of destiny blueprints, and a complete, authoritative rewriting of your access privileges to wealth and influence. Something powerful, something long suppressed in the unseen realm, snapped violently open, and every single adversarial force, every spirit of delay that once successfully held you captive, registered the full, devastating impact of that change. And you, deep within your core, sensed it physically in your chest. A strong pressure, an accelerating pulse, a strange, undeniable awareness whispering. Something monumental is shifting right now all around me. Listen closely. Heaven has been waiting patiently, anticipating for months, perhaps even longer, for you to execute the exact decisive move you finally made today. That move was not required to be flawless. It was not required to be dramatic or public. It simply needed to be different. Remember this principle. One single different choice possesses the power to shatter 1,000 embedded old patterns. And today, you finally achieved the crucial break. The exact second you enacted that change, the spiritual atmosphere around you transformed instantly. The angelic host assigned specifically to your destiny alignment snapped to attention, awaiting new orders. The resources designated for your immediate abundance began to mobilize and flow. The previously rigid timelines that imprisoned your financial breakthrough started bending aggressively toward your present moment. And here is the paradox you may have noticed. You felt both profoundly lighter and simultaneously heavier. Lighter because the chains of limitation had visibly loosened. Heavier because your spiritual capacity and authority had suddenly expanded. Does that distinct, confusing sensation resonate deeply within you? Today, you physically stepped into an elevated version of yourself, a version you were not scheduled to encounter until well into next year. This temporal jump is precisely why your internal energy felt wildly unpredictable and volatile. You were aggressively shifting timelines without any conscious awareness of the maneuver. You perceived it as just another regular day. Heaven declared it an irreversible activation. Your obedience, your boundary setting, your quiet act of courage, all of it triggered a furious divine chain reaction. Understand that a true billionaire shift is not merely about currency. It is fundamentally about capacity, core identity, spiritual authority, and perfect alignment. And today, you simultaneously stepped into all four pillars. Allow me to articulate the core event that truly happened. An intricate pattern has been wrapped tightly around your life since early childhood. A toxic, limiting pattern that consistently forced you to play small. A pattern that compelled you to hide your innate brilliance and potential. A pattern that ingrained a profound fear of success, because success always felt inherently unstable or unsafe. That specific pattern shattered today. It broke not through brute force or endless struggle, but through the sudden ingress of penetrating clarity. And clarity, beloved, is the single most dangerous, disruptive weapon heaven can bestow upon a chosen one. This is what happens when clarity enters. Confusion immediately collapses. When clarity enters, manipulative people instantly lose their corrosive influence over your decisions. When clarity enters, destructive cycles simply cannot continue their momentum. Most importantly, when clarity enters, wealth begins to flow dynamically toward you, instead of simply circulating frustratingly around you. That is why the adversarial forces aggressively fought your mind so fiercely this very morning. That debilitating mental fog you experienced was not random chance. It was not routine fatigue. It was the desperate, final attempt by the enemy to prevent you from realizing, accepting, and stepping into the reality of who you truly are. Failed utterly. Chosen one. The protective veil that obscured truth didn't just passively lift today. It violently tore open from top to bottom. And because of that tear, everything that was strategically hidden from your view is now surging rapidly to the surface. Revolutionary ideas, powerful connections, strategic blueprints, restored self-worth, and tangible financial opportunities that have been uniquely shaped and reserved specifically for your hands. But before I disclose the next layer of strategic alignment heaven is preparing, pause once more and take a stabilizing breath. If your spirit feels a profound, almost physical vibration right now, it is confirmation that something ancient and powerful deep inside you is finally waking up. And if you desire these critical revelations to continue meeting you in the precise, urgent moments you require them, connect with this lifeline. Do this not out of routine or tradition, but because this is now your direct spiritual lifeline. Heaven delivers its counsel in intricate sequences, never in isolated, one-off events. Now pay extremely close attention. The exact path you were struggling to walk yesterday is fundamentally and spiritually different from the path your feet landed upon today. Superficially, they may appear identical, but they are not the same reality. Yesterday's path demanded constant, draining survival. Today's path necessitates rapid, aggressive expansion. Understand this clearly. Heaven is not merely preparing you to receive stagnant money. Heaven is meticulously preparing you to carry significant international influence. This is crucial because influence, deployed correctly, multiplies wealth exponentially faster than mere wealth can multiply itself. This is why you experienced that strange, powerful surge of immediate boldness today. It felt almost as if an entirely new, uninhibited version of yourself stepped forward. A version that was completely unafraid, that was no longer apologizing for its existence, and that utterly refused to shrink back. But that version is not new. That version is your original, authentic self, the one who existed before fear and disappointment systematically rewrote your identity. Your spirit possesses the perfect memory of what your mind was conditioned to forget. You were born specifically for radical elevation. And relentless elevation always demands precise separation. This explains why certain people have recently drifted or been forced away from your orbit. It was not abandonment or betrayal. It was divine, purposeful pruning. Heaven surgically removed the voices and influences that constantly chipped away at and shrank your sense of true identity. These were people whose very presence drained your vital energy. People who could not genuinely celebrate your growth. People who were frankly more emotionally comfortable with your struggle than they would ever be with your success. Because listen carefully, a true, sustained billionaire shift cannot possibly occur within the radius of small-minded, restrictive environments. You cannot fundamentally think bigger while simultaneously surrounded by individuals who are inherently terrified of big things. You cannot continue to grow when encircled by those whose primary need is for you to remain conveniently small. You cannot rise when you are spiritually tethered to those who habitually collapse the moment pressure is applied. And beloved, God foresaw the necessary pressures coming in your future. But He also saw your guaranteed rise above them. Therefore, He systematically cleared the entire room before the elevation process was permitted to commence. But here is the spiritual consequence you have not yet fully internalized. Your spirit began ascending and rising exponentially faster than your established environment could keep pace. That is the true origin of why you felt so profoundly out of place lately. It was not the sadness of loneliness. It was the undeniable reality of rapid elevation. You expanded. They stagnated. The gap between your new frequency and their old frequency was revealed. And today, you finally stepped into full, conscious agreement with the trajectory of growth heaven had already assigned to you. Allow me to ask you something profoundly bold. Have you noticed that certain situations or responsibilities you once feared intensely no longer hold power over you? That conversations which habitually stole your inner peace no longer disturb your equilibrium? That significant responsibilities which once felt utterly overwhelming suddenly feel strangely manageable? That is not merely the slow progression of maturity. That is spiritual metamorphosis. You outgrew a smaller version of yourself today. And heaven responded to that internal shift instantly. The dedicated angels assigned to manage your specific abundance blueprint, and yes, such a definitive plan absolutely exists, immediately brought forth sealed scrolls that were previously hidden from your awareness until this very moment. These scrolls contain strategic ideas engineered for building enduring generational wealth. Scrolls detailing powerful, necessary connections meant to radically elevate your influence. Scrolls outlining opportunities that align perfectly and urgently with your divine purpose. All of these were sealed shut. But today, the protective seal violently cracked open. Not because heaven changed its mind, but because you changed your posture and capacity. And now, the long-awaited floodgates of strategic, actionable insight are beginning to tear open all around your consciousness. That explains why your mind is persistently firing with groundbreaking ideas. Why you feel a sudden, intense craving for immediate radical change. Why you perceive a powerful urgency without being able to pinpoint its source. It is streaming directly from heaven. It is originating from your highest calling. It is resonating from the accelerated future you just forcibly stepped into. But listen very closely now because this is sacred wisdom. True wealth is fundamentally spiritual before it can ever manifest physically. And carrying profound spiritual wealth requires complete emotional healing. This is the reason you have been feeling older. Seemingly processed wounds resurface recently. They are not returning to torment you, but to secure your total release. You cannot effectively carry sustainable abundance while simultaneously holding on to pain that severely drains your internal capacity. Heaven is absolutely not punishing you by bringing these suppressed issues to the surface. It is aggressively cleansing you, strengthening your inner structure, and preparing your heart for stewardship. Today, something deeply hidden was finally and surgically uprooted. A limiting belief, a paralyzing fear, an old wound, or the persistent, lying voice that insisted, "You are not enough." That destructive voice lost its legal, authorized right to operate in your life this morning, which means systemic, unlimited abundance has just gained direct, unhindered access to you. Yet we are only scratching the outermost surface, beloved. There is a defining, ultimate reason heaven accelerated your entire timeline today. A reason far larger than mere opportunity, greater than currency, and more significant than fleeting success. A reason tied directly to your core identity, your eternal calling, and a destiny framework that has been patiently waiting for you to fully arrive. The deeper we penetrate this truth, the more of your reality will unfold. But I need your spirit to be completely steady and anchored before we enter the next dimension of revelation. Vocalize and seal your alignment by declaring, "I step into the flow," because when your physical voice aligns with the spiritual decree, heaven moves with intensified speed. Now lean in again, because the profound revelation heaven is about to release explains explicitly why this radical shift had to happen today. Why, despite your prayers, it could not happen earlier. And why everything in the foreseeable trajectory of your life is about to speed up in exponential ways you have never before experienced. Chosen one, the ultimate reason is timing. Not the unreliable clock of human timing, but the sacred, perfect timing of heaven itself. There are specific, ordained appointments written directly into the fabric of eternity that cannot be accelerated by human force, nor can they ever be delayed by the forces of darkness. These appointments unlock solely when your inner, spiritual posture achieves a precise match with the sheer weight and magnitude of the blessing prepared specifically for you. Today, for the first time in a very long time, heaven peered into the depths of your spirit, witnessed that perfect, crucial alignment, and declared, "Now." You did not consciously register the internal alignment, but your spirit understood perfectly. It manifested in the quiet decisiveness with which you finally said a firm no to people or activities that perpetually drained your life force. It showed up in the way you ferociously protected your inner peace rather than sacrificing it to placate others. It was evident in the way you chose to honor your powerful future rather than endlessly reliving the narratives of your painful past. These seemingly small shifts collectively created a profound opening, a crack in the stubborn old ceiling, forming an instantaneous, unhindered corridor for the angels to move through without encountering any spiritual resistance. And instantly, the entire spiritual realm surrounding you commenced a radical repositioning maneuver. Financial doors that were once hermetically sealed began actively scanning the spiritual atmosphere specifically for your name. People who never saw your worth started feeling inexplicably stirred toward you. Creative ideas that once existed only in frustrating fragments instantly coalesced with perfect clarity. All of this occurred simply because heaven whispered one single, irresistible instruction into your timeline: advance. But hear this crucial detail. Your advancement is not a random occurrence. It is precisely strategic. Heaven has been meticulously mapping a complex route around colossal obstacles that you were never even aware existed. There were devastating spiritual traps laid specifically in your blind spots. There were invisible, malicious agreements formed by people who perpetually doubted your divine calling. There were systemic spiritual delays assigned specifically to keep you locked in cycles, endlessly circling the same painful emotional landscapes. But today, the move you made violently disrupted every single one of those constraints. Your atmosphere dramatically shifted from one of passive reaction to one of active creation. Before today, life continually happened to you. After today, life and the very forces of nature will immediately respond to you. Why? Because when a chosen one awakens and steps fully into their divine authority, the entirety of creation listens and obeys. This is why you experienced an unusual, powerful magnetism today, feeling as though high-level opportunities were physically leaning in your direction. They were. They instantaneously sensed the authoritative signal released from your spirit the moment you executed the choice that broke the millennia-old pattern. But there is even more to this. A completely new, high-vibrational field of influence opened around you today. This field aggressively attracts everything that aligns perfectly with your purpose while automatically repelling anything that fundamentally contradicts it. This explains why specific people suddenly felt distant. Why routine conversations quickly fizzled out. Why you find you can no longer tolerate mediocrity or complacency the way you once did. You are currently undergoing a severe recalibration. Your spiritual frequency has radically risen. Your discernment has sharpened to a razor point. Your emotional threshold for tolerance has permanently shifted. And the immutable law is this: when frequency changes, the surrounding environment must change to match it. You are no longer standing in the same spiritual location you occupied 24 hours ago. You are now positioned at a significantly higher spiritual altitude. And functioning at higher altitudes demands an entirely different mode of breathing and operation. That subtle tightening you felt earlier in your chest was not panic or anxiety. It was physical and spiritual expansion. Heaven was actively increasing your internal capacity to securely hold the staggering weight of wealth, purpose, and elevated spiritual authority without the risk of collapsing under the sheer pressure. You remained unaware of the deep strengthening occurring inside your spirit. Yet, every single moment of discomfort you navigated today was actually precise, strategic preparation. And because you courageously embraced that discomfort rather than fleeing from it, Heaven released yet another critical layer of divine insight over your life. This immediate insight begins subtly. It presents itself as undeniable intuition, a quiet, absolute knowing, a deeply felt sense that forces far beyond your human understanding are purposefully rearranging your next steps. But intuition is only the foundational layer. The consequential next layer is revelation. Revelation arrives when Heaven forcefully pulls back the concealing curtain on the subconscious forces that were influencing your core decisions without your awareness or consent. And today, that curtain was permanently moved aside. You may not yet possess the panoramic, full picture, but you are already feeling the dynamic effects. Your entrenched thought patterns are shifting their direction. Your life priorities are spontaneously rearranging themselves, and your core motivations are becoming laser clear. This is not happenstance or coincidence. This is supreme spiritual intelligence rapidly awakening within your soul. And with that awakening comes immediate, unhindered access to opportunities you were previously blind to. You now see hidden pathways, receive silent, exclusive invitations, and walk under a mantle of unspoken favor. These are doors that never announce their presence but reveal themselves only when your spirit reaches the required frequency and level of clarity. You have achieved that level. And because you have, Heaven is now meticulously orchestrating divine encounters that carry the exact blueprint for your imminent elevation. Encounters with individuals whose very presence will drastically accelerate your progress. People who instinctively speak in transformative solutions rather than contributing to debilitating problems. People who instantly recognize the specialized mantle resting upon your life without requiring a single verbal explanation from you. However, before these strategically important people manifest, Heaven is ensuring you do not carry the corrosive emotional residue of past disappointments into these critical new divine appointments. That is the reason certain painful memories resurface today. They did not return to hurt you. They returned to facilitate your permanent release. Heaven steadfastly refuses to deliver profound, new blessings into a heart that is still haunted and crippled by old grief and historical pain. And chosen one, that final emotional release unlocked yet another gate. This gate is not physical or earthly. It is dimensional. It actively shifts your position into a higher spiritual realm where your full, unlimited potential becomes visibly undeniable. Not merely visible to you, but to everyone assigned to collaborate in your destiny. This is why, without consciously altering your external behavior, you will notice that people's eyes are instinctively turning toward you. You will observe respect growing, recognition rising, and your influence aggressively expanding. This occurs not because you are actively trying to seek attention, but because heaven is powerfully illuminating you. Illumination is fundamentally different from manufactured attention. Attention can be bought, sought, or manipulated. Divine illumination cannot be faked or resisted. When heaven illuminates a chosen individual, the physical, earthly systems spontaneously rearrange their structure to accommodate that person. Financial markets shift. Key people strategically reposition themselves. Opportunities aggressively restructure their requirements. This entire process is happening to you right now. Not postponed until next year, not deferred until someday, but actively manifesting now. But we have not yet touched the absolute core of why heaven chose this specific date. The genuine reason is rooted in a highly specific spiritual countdown that has been actively running over your life. A silent clock that has been steadily approaching its precise moment of activation. This countdown is governed by a singular rule. It only reaches completion when your internal alignment achieves total readiness. Today, the countdown hit 0, and in that instantaneous moment, heaven released a profound, irrevocable decree over your life. A decree that fundamentally and forever changes the entire trajectory of your future. A binding decree tied to staggering wealth, global influence, piercing clarity, and a measurable level of spiritual authority you have never remotely walked in before. This divine decree possesses multiple layers, significant depth, monumental magnitude, and far-reaching spiritual consequences. The subsequent layer of this unfolding revelation will fully explain why sudden, unsettling disruptions began occurring around your environment earlier than you expected. Why certain doors closed permanently without your human permission. And why your spirit feels simultaneously restless, yet intensely excited, because something infinitely greater is now rapidly approaching your position. But we must reserve that expansion for the next designated section. Before we proceed, forcefully seal this transformative moment with the declaration. I step into the flow, because receiving the next revelation demands that your spirit remains completely open and steady. Now take a measured breath, because what heaven is preparing to show you next is the precise, fundamental reason your name has just been irrevocably shifted into a higher realm of destiny. Because what heaven is preparing to show you next is the reason your name just shifted realms. Chosen one. Something monumental occurred the moment that decree was released into the heavens. A profound spiritual spotlight turned toward your life, burning away the shadows, not to expose your flaws or weaknesses, but to reveal, with undeniable clarity, the grandeur of your divine assignment. Heaven is no longer whispering your name in hushed corridors. It is announcing it across dimensions, a cosmic declaration. And every force in the universe, be it light or dark, has been forced to take notice of your elevation. This is precisely why the atmosphere around you feels so strange tonight. It doesn't feel dangerous, nor is it chaotic. It feels fundamentally different, unfamiliar, and profoundly awake. Because when a chosen one crosses the boundary into a new realm of spiritual authority, the very air around them thickens with recognition. It holds the undeniable weight of destiny. It holds the memory of the promise, and most importantly, it holds the blueprint of possibility. This density you feel is not a heaviness of burdens. It is the palpable condensation of future blessings drawing infinitesimally near, preparing to materialize and manifest fully in the physical realm. And that condensation carries celestial messages, subtle impressions, intuitive nudges, and sudden, piercing clarity. These are not random sparks of thought. They are divine codes, signals, and indicators that your spirit is entering a season where divine strategies will flow through you, effortlessly, like water. But strategies alone are not the core of what is shifting within you. It goes deeper, much deeper than simple methods. You have just moved into a realm of visibility in the spirit that very few souls ever reach in their lifetime. Not because they weren't fiercely loved by the Creator, but because they never fully aligned their internal world with the divine pattern. Today you aligned. You snapped into the correct frequency. And alignment is the spiritual catalyst that compels heaven to reveal what was previously hidden behind the veil of temporary delays. Let me tell you what that means for your daily life. You are about to notice critical patterns you were utterly blind to before. Faces that once blended seamlessly into the crowd will suddenly stand out, illuminated by either truth or warning. Words spoken casually will now feel overwhelmingly weighted with meaning or consequence. Decisions will carry a deep, ringing resonance. Silence, the absence of noise, will speak louder and yield more wisdom than any sound. This heightened state is not mere sensitivity or nervousness. It is pure, potent discernment. Heaven is strategically upgrading the way you perceive reality and process information because you cannot move into your billionaire shift with the same eyes that tolerated the existence of scarcity in your life. Scarcity is not only financial or monetary. It is a mental cage, an emotional wound, and a relational prison. It shows up as tolerating what relentlessly drains your energy, accepting what actively diminishes your value, and holding on desperately to people or situations that God has already definitively dismissed from your narrative. Today, you finally let go of something critical. Maybe it was a debilitating habit, maybe a paralyzing fear, maybe a person whose presence was toxic, or maybe a core belief you didn't even realize was actively poisoning your destiny from within. Whatever that sacrifice was, heaven responded instantly, and that instantaneous response activated a new spiritual law over your life. Acceleration without resistance. This law is exceptionally powerful. It means that what used to take months of painful struggle will now take mere days. What used to take days of linear progress will now take only hours. What used to require external permission and endless negotiation will now require only immediate, simple obedience to the divine instruction. You are stepping into a dynamic phase where delay can no longer attach itself to your timeline, regardless of external circumstances. Not because you're simply lucky, not because you are favored more than others who also pray, but because you have become spiritually aerodynamic. There is nothing in your soul or spirit that is dragging behind anymore. The residual parts of you that once subconsciously sabotaged your momentum have been irrevocably stripped away by the hand of the divine. But acceleration is only one component of what begins tonight. Another, even rarer force has been activated around you. Something rarely discussed, rarely recognized by the world, yet deeply and intensely felt in your spirit. A mantle, a consecrated spiritual garment, a covering of profound influence that expands your presence far beyond your physical boundaries. This mantle is not symbolic or metaphorical. It carries tangible weight in the unseen realms, and today it has definitively settled on your shoulders. You may feel it now as a spreading warmth along your spine, a subtle vibration behind your sternum, a quiet but undeniable boldness rising in your voice, or a core sense of purpose that absolutely refuses to dim down ever again. These sensations are not merely emotional fluctuations. They are powerful spiritual confirmations that the transaction is complete. This mantle will execute 3 specific actions in your life, and each of them connects directly to the fulfillment of your billionaire shift. It will powerfully amplify your decisions. It will relentlessly expose all hidden intentions. And it will supernaturally attract divine provision. Amplification means that even your smallest choices, when aligned, will produce massive, overwhelming outcomes. Where others sow seeds and reap gradually, linearly, you will sow and reap exponentially, multiplying your yield in every dimension. Exposure means that manipulation and lies cannot survive near your presence anymore. Deception dissolves on contact with your field. Attraction means that resources, financial, relational, spiritual, and intellectual, will begin orbiting your life like planets around a sun, because your settled mantle signals absolute readiness to the universe. But here is the critical part many fail to grasp. Mantles demand movement. A mantle has no operational purpose if the one who carries its weight remains utterly still. That is precisely why heaven is stirring your spirit tonight with an undeniable urge. That internal restlessness you feel is not discomfort or anxiety. It is pure propulsion. You are being forcefully nudged out of the holding pattern you've been confined to for far too long. Because, chosen one, you were never meant to stay where you currently are. You were destined to transition, to advance, to occupy new ground, to build lasting legacies. And heaven is now clearing the path ahead with surgical precision. Right now, even as you take your next breath, critical connections are being rearranged miles away from you. conversations you are not even present for are beginning to lean irrevocably in your favor. Someone you have not yet met is feeling an inexplicable, magnetic pull toward your name and your future. Opportunities you have not dared to imagine are physically preparing space for your arrival. Entire networks and infrastructures are shifting their foundation to make abundant room for your entrance. Why? Because the decree released over your life today fundamentally changed how the universe responds to your very existence. But we still haven't touched the deepest, most foundational layer of all. Why? Your spirit feels like it's standing right on the precipice, on the edge of something enormous, something sacred, something irreversible. What is approaching next isn't merely a door to walk through. It's a divine intersection, a profound meeting point between the version of you that endured the past, the version you are now, and the version heaven architected you to become from the beginning of time. And the moment you step into that intersection, your life will not expand gradually or incrementally. It will expand suddenly, instantly, quantumly. Sudden clarity, sudden provision, sudden alignment, sudden elevation. But before the sudden elevation, there must come sudden revelation. And the revelation that is approaching you will perfectly explain the battles you fought in silence, the delays you endured, the tears you hid from the world, and the unyielding strength you didn't know you were building in the process. And beloved, that earth-shattering revelation is closer than you think. Type, I step into the flow to seal what is opening in your spirit. Because the next layer we are about to enter will finally uncover why heaven waited until this exact day, this specific moment, to release this magnitude of shift into your life. And what massive stewardship is about to be placed into your hands because of it. Chosen one, heaven never releases its divine timing without a deep and profound intention. There is always a reason etched into the fabric of time. There is always a pattern hidden in plain sight. There is always a detailed, hidden orchestration working tirelessly behind the scenes of your life. And the truth is this, your spirit reached a critical threshold today. Point of no return. A definitive moment where the old, smaller version of you could no longer possibly survive the magnitude of the destiny waiting for you just beyond the veil. This threshold did not arrive out of the blue. It arrived through a prolonged series of quiet, inner shifts, micro-decisions heaven watched with unwavering, divine attention. You stopped apologizing for simply wanting more than the norm. You stopped shrinking your potential to protect the fragile egos of others. You stopped surrendering your deep inner peace just to keep temporary, shallow connections afloat. You stopped letting fear narrate and dictate your decisions. And every single one of those internal, sovereign choices added indispensable weight to your spiritual scale. Today, the scale tipped violently in your favor. That tipping point is the single trigger that released the billionaire shift. It wasn't just action you took. It was the accumulation of aligned choices. It was compounding alignment. It was your soul finally matching, note for note, the blueprint heaven wrote for you long ago. And because your inner world aligned perfectly, heaven immediately began repositioning your outer world. This repositioning is subtle at first, often mistaken for coincidence, but it is utterly unmistakable once you recognize its signs. You may find yourself utterly uninterested in things and activities that once consumed all your time and attention. You may feel an urgent, powerful urge to move, to change direction, or to release old anchors. You may sense an unseen force pulling you forward even when you don't yet know where forward actually leads. These are not mere impulses or whims. They are sacred invitations. Heaven is ushering you into a new landscape of authority. But this landscape demands a different, higher type of awareness. An awareness heaven is currently activating and fine-tuning within your spirit right now. You will begin noticing divine timing more sharply and precisely. Why certain moments feel spiritually charged. Why certain places feel heavy with restriction. Why certain people drain your energy instantly while others supercharge your spirit. This sensitivity is not an emotional burden. It is intensely strategic. The acquisition of true wealth requires razor-sharp discernment. Elevation requires heightened perception. Destiny requires constant awareness. And heaven is giving you all three superpowers at once. But here's the deeper truth behind the timing of this entire shift. Today marks the absolute, final end of your wilderness window. A wilderness window is a designated season where heaven intentionally hides certain blessings and external rewards to first grow and temper your inner spiritual strength. You were not being denied provision. You were being deeply developed. Your resilience, your clarity of purpose, your patience under fire, your emotional stamina, your spiritual intelligence. All of these indispensable qualities were quietly built in isolation while heaven watched over your process with ultimate precision. And tonight, your wilderness window closed forever. When a wilderness closes, a gateway opens. Not a simple door, but a monumental gateway. A gateway signifies a complete realm shift. It relocates your life from a place of merely attempting and trying to a place of becoming and executing. From hoping for resources to being explicitly entrusted with massive resources. This is why your spirit feels simultaneously stretched by the intensity and steadied by the promise. The gateway responds only to readiness, never to desperation. And today, for the first time in years of preparation, heaven saw undeniable readiness sealed within you. But readiness alone does not activate the gateway. Something else is needed, a spiritual signature. Your signature was stamped the moment you released what heaven told you to let go of. Even if you released it quietly, without fanfare or declaration, heaven does not measure the volume of your action. Heaven measures the purity of your obedience. And your singular act of obedience sent a definitive signal throughout all the realms. A signal that said, "They're ready. Move them forward now." This signal unlocked something absolutely extraordinary. A convergence. A convergence is the miraculous point where multiple timelines, profound opportunities, and critical divine connections begin moving toward you simultaneously, operating under a single mandate. Not slowly, but swiftly, forcefully, and inevitably. You may already feel this convergence actively working in your body. The subtle flutter in your chest, the sudden, unprovoked hope rising without any obvious external reason, the mental clarity sharpening like a newly whetted blade. These sensations are spiritual confirmations that the massive momentum has begun its inexorable march. But beloved, convergence does not arrive alone. It is always accompanied by revelation, the revelation of why your journey took the precise, difficult turns it did. Why some doors were closed abruptly, with no warning or explanation. Why you were delayed repeatedly when others seemed to advance effortlessly. Why you were isolated during periods when you begged desperately for connection. Heaven is preparing to answer all the profound questions you carried silently in your heart. Not through simple words or pronouncements, but through perfect alignment. Alignment explains what human language often cannot. It reveals a hidden purpose through beautiful orchestration. It speaks through precise timing rather than complex sentences. And that perfect alignment is already unfolding rapidly around you. But there is another layer yet. One heaven reveals only to those who are stepping into large generational assignments. A layer tied inextricably to responsibility, influence, capacity, and impact. What you are about to receive is not meant for your personal comfort or luxury alone. It is meant for stewardship, for building lasting platforms, for elevating others in your sphere, for shifting the atmosphere of rooms you haven't even entered yet. This is why heaven needed you completely healed. This is why heaven needed you disentangled from all previous anchors. This is why heaven needed you fully awake to the magnitude of the moment. Because the mantle you now carry has ripple effects that extend far beyond your own lifetime. And chosen one, this is truly only the beginning. There is a deep reason your spirit feels like something enormous, something historic, is on final approach. Because it is. But before heaven unveils the next layer of what is prepared, your heart needs to anchor itself firmly in willingness. You are not being asked to strive or fight for it. You are being asked simply to agree to it. Type one step into the flow to seal the readiness rising within you. Now lean in because what comes next will reveal who is being strategically positioned around you, why the shift had to wait until you matured emotionally and spiritually, and what critical divine appointments are already moving directly in your direction. Appointments tied to the very wealth and purpose heaven has preserved solely for this season. Chosen one. Now that heaven has decisively shifted your atmosphere, there are intentional steps you absolutely must take. Small steps, quiet steps, intentional steps that serve to activate and anchor what has already been released in the unseen realms. Revelation opens the gate, but precise alignment is what walks you through it. And heaven is waiting with attentive expectation to see how you move next. Listen closely and commit this to your spirit, because these steps are not mundane routines. They are spiritual technologies designed for this new altitude. Your breakthrough season is not sustained by chance or luck. It's sustained by rhythm. And today, heaven is handing you a new rhythm for elevated living. First, create physical space for the new. Not metaphorical space in your thoughts, but literal, tangible, physical space in your environment. The massive blessing that is coming needs adequate room to land, and clutter, be it emotional, mental, or environmental, actively blocks spiritual movement. So, start precisely where you are. Clear one drawer, one corner of a room, one digital folder, one email inbox. It doesn't matter which one. What matters is that your physical reality actively mirrors your spiritual readiness. Because when you clear space, heaven is compelled to fill it. And you will feel a profound shift the very moment you execute this. A lightness, a widening of your breath. A quiet internal yes rising in your chest without knowing exactly why. That is your first sign that your spirit is cooperating fully with the divine flow. Second, guard your emotional gates with iron discipline. Elevation is not only about where you are going. It is fundamentally about what you absolutely refuse to let back into your inner sanctuary. You cannot walk into a season of abundance while entertaining draining conversations designed solely to shrink your vision. You cannot build massive influence while absorbing the fears and stagnation of those who refuse to grow themselves. You cannot host divine wisdom while feeding on drama, chaos, or emotional leftovers from the past. So today, make a quiet, non-negotiable vow to yourself. Choose silence over reactive arguments. Choose respectful distance over perpetual confusion. Choose your sovereign peace over the desperate need to be understood. These small, consistent choices create massive spiritual clearance. And you will notice instantly that your inner world becomes sharper, calmer, and intensely strategic. You won't react to triggers the same way you used to. Your spirit is maturing at an accelerated rate. Third, begin your mornings with powerful declaration. Not begging, not pleading for mercy, but declaring the established facts. Start each day by speaking the absolute truth heaven already wrote over your life before time began. Today I walk in the flow of divine prosperity. Today my every step aligns perfectly with my highest purpose. Today everything destined for me finds me without delay. Say it before your feet even touch the floor. Say it when your mind is still quiet and receptive. Say it like your future itself is listening to your command, because it is. Declarations bend the atmosphere to your will. Declarations dismantle invisible resistance. Declarations rewire the emotional currents inside you toward confidence. And the more consistently you declare, the more swiftly your surroundings respond to the new truth. Fourth, track your divine nudges meticulously. When a billionaire shift begins, heaven communicates through heightened impressions, recurring patterns, subtle symbols, specific numbers, and soft, internal whispers. You've already felt this shift, those sudden genius ideas, those strange moments of profound clarity, those urges to move, to rest, to release, or to create something new. These are not random impulses. They are precise, divine coordinates. So write them down immediately. Yes, physically write them down. Do not keep them in your head. Do not let them pass fleetingly. Write them down as if they were life-altering instructions delivered directly by angels, because many of them are. And watch what happens next. Within days, you'll begin seeing undeniable connections. Threads linking moments you thought were separate incidents. Paths forming clearly where chaos once lived. Solutions rising effortlessly from ideas you had previously dismissed. That is divine intelligence unfolding your future. Fifth, steward your finances with deep intention and reverence. You are stepping into wealth, but heaven needs to absolutely trust your stewardship capacity before the overflow is released. So handle the resources you have now as if they were already multiplied tenfold. Assign every dollar a deliberate purpose. Bless your incoming income before you use it. Track exactly where your energy and your money go. Shift your perspective from survival thinking to expansion thinking, because true wealth only flows freely to those who actively respect it. And as you diligently do this, something subtle yet profound will happen. Your relationship with money will heal completely. The suffocating fear will loosen its grip. The deep shame surrounding past lack will dissolve. The anxiety will quiet itself. You will begin to feel empowered instead of perpetually overwhelmed, prepared instead of pressured, aligned instead of confused. This is exactly what a wealth mindset looks like in the spirit realm. Sixth, examine your inner circle with holy clarity. Elevation always exposes intentions in others. Some people, perhaps many, cannot walk with you into your next level of influence. Not because they are inherently evil, but simply because their emotional and spiritual capacity ends precisely where yours begins. So pay attention to these critical signs. Who feels dimmer or diminished around your rising light? Who grows mysteriously silent when you discuss your major dreams? Who actively changes the subject when you talk about personal or spiritual growth? Who drains your energy instantly without offering truth, strength, or affirmation in return? These observations are not acts of judgment. They are necessary discernment. Heaven is revealing who is meant to stay and who is meant to graciously fade from your immediate sphere. Not for punishment, but for absolute protection. Your spirit is stepping into massive influence. Your voice is rising in undeniable authority. Your presence is becoming weighty and resonant. You cannot possibly carry everyone into this altitude, and you will feel a profound, instant freedom once you release them with grace and blessing. Seventh, practice stillness daily, consistently. Not hours of meditation, just small, sacred moments. Sit in complete silence for 3 minutes. Let heaven breathe over your anxious thoughts. Let your soul settle deeply into alignment. Let your heart become uncluttered and quiet. Stillness is not inactivity or passivity. Stillness is a high-level strategy. Great clarity only arrives in the quiet void. Great ideas only reach the minds that are still enough to receive and hold them. And chosen one, you are about to receive game-changing ideas that will fundamentally shape your entire future. Eighth, honor your energy cycles. Some days you will naturally rise with fire, ready to execute. Some days you will rise with a powerful need for deep stillness and reflection. Both states are sacred and essential. Do not condemn your low-energy days as failure. Do not overinflate your high-energy days into frantic overwork. Walk only in rhythm, avoiding extremes. Spirit-led living is not frantic or chaotic. It is steady, intentional, and perfectly balanced. Your energy is a divine compass. Heaven uses it to guide your timing, and your timing ultimately determines your massive success. Ninth, prepare meticulously for divine connections. You are about to meet people who will literally unlock the next season of your life. People carrying keys, powerful insight, immediate opportunity, and perfect alignment. People whose presence feels like velocity and lift, not weight or drag. But you must be ready to recognize them instantly. So begin praying this quietly each day. God, highlight every person aligned with my expansive future and gently remove, without drama or conflict, every person tied to my diminishing past. This focused prayer opens necessary doors without forcing anything unnatural. It brings the right people forward rapidly. It releases the wrong ones without lingering drama. And soon, conversations will shift dramatically. Paths will cross unexpectedly. Doors to resources will appear where there were none before. 10th, activate your spiritual boldness. Not mere loudness or bravado, but pure, spiritual boldness. Start taking small, deliberate steps that actively scare your old, smaller self. Send the email you've delayed. Make the crucial phone call. Apply for the daunting opportunity. Study the next field. Expand your craft beyond comfort. Spiritual boldness is not human confidence or ego. It is powerful agreement. Agreement with the version of you that heaven has already definitively crowned and authorized. And every single bold step you take accelerates heaven's release of provision. Chosen one. These steps are not just administrative tasks. They are critical alignment points, and each one successfully completed unlocks the next layer of access and authority around you. But before we continue to what heaven is preparing in the deepest spiritual realm, the movements, the angelic assignments, the detailed divine protections already forming around your next major transition, I need you to anchor this moment with the power of your voice. Type one step into the flow in the comments to seal what heaven has begun moving over your life. Because the next section will take you deeper into what heaven is orchestrating in your future even now, and why tonight definitively marks the turning point in your divine prosperity. Chosen one, pause with me now. Let your shoulders soften their tension. Let your breath deepen and slow. Let the noise and racing thoughts inside you grow quiet for just a moment, because we are about to speak a declarative prayer directly into the atmosphere that has already begun changing around your life. This prayer is not a meek request. It is firm alignment. It is spiritual activation. It is total agreement with what heaven released the moment your timeline violently shifted. So close your eyes if you can and let your spirit rise into its new altitude. Heavenly Father, Ancient One, Keeper of all seasons and Architect of destiny, we come before you in profound reverence. Not as wanderers lost in the dark, not as beggars seeking crumbs, but as your consecrated children stepping boldly into the vast inheritance you prepared long before we could even name our purpose. Tonight, we stand under the open heavens you created specifically for this chosen one. We honor the shift, the monumental transformation that began the very moment they obediently acknowledged your whisper. Lord, breathe new life on them now. Breathe on their clarity of mind. Breathe supernatural ease into their next step. Breathe fire on every dormant gift inside them that has slept for too long. Let every limiting weight fall off their spirit now. Let every false, obsolete identity break and dissolve. Let every old, familiar fear vanish forever. For your holy word declares, no weapon formed against you shall ever prosper. We speak this declaration now with finality over their finances, their emotions, their relationships, their mind, and their sacred mission. Father, we demand divine acceleration, not the kind of chaotic acceleration that overwhelms and destabilizes, but the kind that perfectly aligns, the kind that opens all necessary doors without forcing them open, the kind that magnetically draws provision without exhausting striving for it, the kind that places the right, destiny-aligned people firmly in their path and immediately removes anyone who cannot honor the magnitude of the calling on their life. And Lord, let this chosen one feel the undeniable weight of your hand resting on their shoulder even now. Let them feel you powerfully steadying them, intensely strengthening them, and intimately reminding them they were never truly behind schedule. They were being strategically prepared. We speak restoration over every dry, barren place in their history. We speak exponential expansion over every buried dream and vision. We speak absolute, impermeable protection over every new beginning they embrace. And we declare that anything attempting to delay their breakthrough season loses all permission to attach itself to their timeline. God, lift their spirit, lift their vision, lift their expectation into the stratosphere. Let them rise into this divine prosperity, not with lingering fear or hesitation, but with absolute certainty. Let them walk into rooms they once felt unworthy of. Now let them stand fully recognized and deeply deserving. Let them make decisions with a sharp, undeniable clarity they once only prayed for in desperation. Let them build the lasting legacy that their ancestors only dreamed about, generation after generation, standing on this very soil. This is not merely a moment. This is the hour of becoming, the powerful crystallization of destiny. This is the hour of establishment, where every promise finds its foundation. This is the precise hour you reserved in eternity for their glorious ascent. Now, Father, seal their atmosphere completely. Every blessing you release tonight, let it remain permanently, immovable by any force of darkness. Every door you open, let it stay perpetually open, granting access to their next level. Every revelation you send forth, let it embed itself deep within their spirit, echoing in certainty long after this fleeting moment ends, and compel them to remember this profound truth above all others. They are not stepping into this new level of abundance alone, struggling to make it happen. Heaven walks faithfully with them. Abundant provision walks with them. Divine wisdom walks with them. A host of powerful angels walks with them. And the monumental shift that started in their spirit tonight cannot and will not be reversed. Chosen one, breathe in deeply. This is the critical, defining part where you actively agree with the declaration of heaven. If your spirit is truly ready, if your heart feels that holy, purifying fire rising up from within, acknowledge this moment. Write these definitive words in the comments. I step into the flow. This is far more than a simple statement. It is a permanent seal, a spiritual activation, an indelible signature on the eternal contract heaven wrote specifically for your future. And beloved, if this message stirred something vital within you, if you felt the tangible presence of God speaking directly to you line after line, if your spirit recognized its own impending destiny in these sacred words, then subscribe now. Not out of mere routine, not out of passive habit, but because your journey is dramatically accelerating and heaven is most certainly not finished guiding you through this intense season. Stay aligned with the current. Stay open to the new direction. Stay firmly planted in the flow that powerfully began tonight. Chosen one, stay in this powerful moment just a little longer. Allow the charged atmosphere to settle completely around you. Let the comforting weight of glory rest upon your shoulders, not as a burden, but like a steady, warm, golden light of divine approval. Heaven is not rushing your process. Heaven is meticulously preparing you for what is to come. There is something profoundly sacred happening now in this stillness. A sealing of identity, a deep strengthening of resolve, and a permanent settling of every single word God has spoken over your spirit and your future. So breathe deeply. Let the air enter your lungs not as mere oxygen, but as confirmation of your calling. Let this breath fill the places within your soul where paralyzing fear once hid, suffocating your potential. Let it thoroughly rewrite the empty spaces where corrosive shame and self-doubt once lived. Because right now, in this powerful silence, heaven is expertly stitching together the scattered fragments of your true identity, making you spiritually, emotionally, and mentally whole for the glorious path ahead. Father, we speak absolute peace into this chosen one's soul. Not the ordinary, superficial peace the world offers, but the profound peace that surpasses all human understanding. The kind of peace that powerfully silences brewing storms before they even have a chance to rise. The peace that declares to the very earth, "Be still, they belong to me." Let this divine peace anchor them immovably. Let it root them deeply into their assignment. Let it constantly remind them that absolutely nothing in their future is fragile when held securely by your powerful hands. And God, release over them a brand new, piercing clarity. A clarity that cuts through all layers of confusion like a sharpened blade. A clarity that exposes false opportunities and tempting distractions before they ever get close enough to mislead. A clarity that instantly reveals which monumental doors to enter, which less significant doors to simply walk past, and which doors were never meant for them to approach at all. Let their steps be precise and purposeful. Let their mind be razor sharp. Let their discernment be undeniably quick and accurate. For this is no longer the agonizing season of aimless wandering. This is the season of walking with radical intention and supernatural direction. Chosen one, heaven is finally giving you the full permission to rise. Not timidly, not hesitantly, but boldly, fearlessly, with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who knows, deep down, they are backed completely by eternity itself. Your voice is going to change in authority. Your posture is going to change in dignity. Your decisions will henceforth carry immense, lasting weight. Your mere presence will dramatically shift the atmosphere of rooms you enter. People will look at you and sense something ancient, something holy, something powerfully awakened. It will not be human pride. It will be the undeniable, visible evidence of your profound calling. Lord, surround this chosen one now with intense, divine protection. Let angels encamp strategically around their home, their workplace, their sacred relationships, and their inevitable progress. Let every plot formed against their destiny immediately lose its strength, crumble into dust, and disappear without a trace. Let every spiritual assignment meant to drain their energy and sabotage their focus crumble instantly beneath your sovereign authority. And Father, restore their joy, the pure joy that was stolen quietly, eroded by small battles, the joy that tragically slipped away during long, grinding warfare, the joy that dimmed severely under years of carrying impossible burdens meant for 2 or 3 people. Give them a joy that rises powerfully without human explanation. Joy that spontaneously stirs creativity and vision. Joy that makes heavy days feel miraculously lighter. Joy that powerfully confirms to their weary spirit that they are marching triumphantly toward their purpose. Let them laugh wholeheartedly again. Let them breathe freely again. Let them feel vibrantly alive again. Chosen one, hear me clearly. Your joy is not a luxury item. It is an active weapon, and heaven is sharpening that weapon tonight. God, crown them immediately with wisdom, not the cautious wisdom of fear, not the defensive wisdom of suspicion, but the transcendent wisdom of heaven itself, the kind that sees far beyond the surface appearance, the kind that hears truth clearly inside profound silence, the kind that discerns the hidden motives behind the brightest smiles. Let this profound wisdom guide every financial decision they make, every partnership they entertain, every investment they consider, and every step that leads them into guaranteed abundance. For the wealth that is coming to them must land safely in a heart that is anchored, not shaken, not insecure, and certainly not double-minded. Anchor them, Lord. Chosen one, open your hands fully. Yes, right where you are sitting or standing. Physically open them if you are able. This is symbolic, but its power is immense. Heaven cannot fill what is closed off. Heaven cannot pour new wine into fists still tightly holding yesterday's lingering pain. Heaven cannot release massive new blessings into hands gripping old disappointments and regrets. So open your hands now. Let go of the past. Make abundant room for the new. God, we ask you now to fill these open, expectant hands with everything that righteously belongs to them. Opportunities expertly crafted in heaven's workshop. Resources precisely appointed before their birth. Relationships ordained with divine precision and timing. Strength tailor-made specifically for their demanding assignment. Favor designed specifically to follow them through every season of monumental increase. Let their hands immediately become powerful instruments of blessing. Let everything they touch prosper miraculously. Let every project they undertake expand beyond expectation. Let every good seed they sow multiply exponentially. Chosen one, this next part is critically important. You are stepping into significant influence. Your words will matter more deeply. Your presence will carry more authoritative weight. Your decisions will ripple further through the world than you could ever anticipate. So, Father, protect their character fiercely. Guard their public posture. Keep their heart perpetually soft toward the needy. Keep their vision crystal clear on your mandate. Keep their spirit humble enough to serve diligently and yet bold enough to lead powerfully. Do not let them be swayed or distracted by flattery. Do not let them be wounded or sidelined by baseless criticism. Do not let them be distracted by the constant, confusing noise of the world. Do not let them ever forget who ultimately called them and equipped them. Let them remember clearly that true elevation is not about accumulating status. It is fundamentally about stewardship. It is about shaping lives and destinies, not merely collecting applause. It is about walking unwaveringly in their purpose, not proving a point to naysayers. Chosen one, heaven is wrapping you now in fresh strength. You may feel it as a profound warmth on your back, or a quiet steadiness settling in your chest, or a sudden, dramatic release of tension in your shoulders. That is grace. That is divine covering. That is pure empowerment. Let it settle into your core. Let it land firmly. Let it shape you into the leader you were destined to be. Now, Father, we ask for one more essential thing. Not for convenience, not for comfort, but for absolute alignment. Align their future steps perfectly with their destiny. Align their connections and relationships precisely with their purpose. Align their opportunities perfectly with their calling. Align their timing exactly with heaven's supernatural clock. Align their very heart with your divine heartbeat. And let this alignment conspicuously mark them. Let it distinguish them publicly. Let it set them so clearly apart that even those who knew them intimately before this moment will be forced to observe and say, "There is profoundly something different on you now," because there truly is. Heaven confirmed it. Heaven released it. Heaven sealed it tonight. Chosen one, take one last intentional breath. Slow, deep, steady. Now lift your voice in the way heaven understands best, through active agreement and declaration. Write it one last, definitive time in the comments. I step into the flow. This is your final signature, your permanent seal, your ultimate alignment, your resounding yes to everything heaven has positioned before you. And beloved, if this powerful message awakened your spirit, touched your heart deeply, or stirred something long asleep within you, subscribe now. Not out of outdated habit, but because heaven is demonstrably not finished guiding you, and the very next word you need will meet you exactly when you need it most. Stay watchful. Stay expectant. Stay open. The divine shift has officially begun.